Great. So welcome, everyone. This is the product group conversation. It's December 14th. And today we will be focusing on fulfillment. There are no questions on the agenda yet, so I'll just give you all a minute or so if you want to review the docs and ask any questions. While you're all doing that, I'll just flash quickly my favorite slide, which is just a quick refresher on who is on the fulfillment team. So let me just quickly do that. If y'all can see my screen, you'll recognize a couple of these faces, maybe not, but this is our fulfillment product team. Starting with Justin, who's my boss. Then you have myself and a bunch of pretty awesome PMs. Tatiana, Donique, and Courtney have been around since the early this year, and Alex and Manuel are most recent additions to the team. We're very, very happy to have them all on the team. If you've ever have had an issue with fulfillment, you've probably interacted with some of those, trying to get those resolved. And I'll just do a quick recap of some of the major highlights that we've had in the last 3 to 6 months since we last hosted a group conversation. We launched the community programs renewals, which is really driving a lot of efficiency for our community programs that happen in 15.6. Cloud licensing has been a big theme this year. And if you all remember, we launched cloud licensing as part of the Supersonics projects last year. And the adoption of cloud licensing was lagging. And this year, the focus has been on increasing that. In November, we actually crossed this threshold of 50% of all self-managed instances or subscriptions are actually using cloud licensing. And this is all of the different instances. And we see adoption of over 85% of activations happening on cloud licensing on a weekly basis, which is a huge progress from where we were last year. I think at the beginning of the year, we were at less than 20% of instances activated using cloud licensing. Happy to talk about that. And then the other thing is really one of the benefits or the things I wanted to enable with cloud licensing was auto renewals. And in December, over 400 subscriptions are going to auto renew, which is not going to require any intervention from anyone's behalf. And that's a pretty big accomplishment. And yeah, another thing that, this is a little bit, I'm not going to talk through all of it, but we have increased investments in fulfillment. And as part of that, have restructured the team. So some of the things that you may have missed in the last couple of months is that we split the purchase group into 2 groups. One more focused on online self-service first orders, another one focused on billing and subscription management, so add-ons, renewals, QSRs, etc. We also established a fulfillment platform group that focuses on data architecture and improving all of our, our core foundations. And then the other thing that we've established recently were the fulfillment admin tooling team. This team is really going to focus on enabling, starting with the support team, enabling us to help our customers when they run into issues with their subscriptions. And lastly, the commerce integrations team, which is improving some of our current integrations across order-to-cash systems. And they're going to be working to reset our marketplaces integrations as well. Cool. And with that, I'll stop sharing and just flip back to see if there's any questions.
I have a question, Omar.
Oh, really, Justin? Go ahead.
As your boss. So cloud licensing sounds cool. And I always love numbers increasing. So congrats to the team for the progress there over the year on increasing the activation rate and the percentage of accounts that are on cloud licensing, which is great. But why should I care? Why does it matter? Yeah,
great question, Justin. So cloud licensing really is meant to accomplish a couple of things. One is from a customer perspective, it's really meant to improve their activation renewal add-ons process from now until forever, right? So the way that cloud licensing does that is in the past, so let's just contrast it to legacy licensing, the previous legacy system. In the past, we basically would just tell you, okay, you bought GitLab. This is the plan that you bought with this many licenses. We'll ship you a file. You will go and activate your instance. And that's it. If you made any changes to your subscription, like you bought an add-on, you renewed your subscription, the instance had no knowledge of that. So we had to ship you a new file that then you had to upload and activate. And there were a ton of just back and forth that was unnecessary happening there and a lot of issues. So cloud licensing resolved that because what happens is once you activate the cloud licensing, the instance is now connected to our servers. On a daily basis, it does a synchronization with our servers, and any changes to the subscription just automatically get synchronized into the instance each night, right? So no longer need to be sending back and forth license files. Great value for our customers. Second thing that it does is that it enables our team to be well equipped with data. So when we do that synchronization between the instance and our servers, we also just pass back, okay, how many seats are actually being used at the instance, right? So if we sold you a license with 1,000 seats, and then we can see that you're already close to 1,000 seats as a CSM, as a rep, I can go to the customer and say, hey, it seems like you're gonna need an add-on soon. Do you want to talk about that? Right. And it allows us to do more proactive planning and communication to customers to help them manage their subscription. I feel like that sounds really cool.
That sounds really cool. Yeah, I'm all in now. I wasn't before, but now I'm in. No, so okay, great. So then tell me, what do you think we need to do to get that last? So you said 50% of accounts today have it. What do we need to do? And then 80%, 85%, I think you said, is what's activated on a weekly basis. Do we just wait, or what do we do to sort of get the rest of those customers on board?
Yeah, great question. So it's a couple scenarios. One is if a customer is on legacy licenses and they're renewing, we should proactively work with them to make sure that they're on GitLab 14.1 or above, because that's when they can actually start using cloud licensing. And then as part of the renewal, get them on cloud licensing. That is, I would say, the best thing that we could be doing. Just as part of renewals, get more people on board. Now, the second thing that we are actually looking into doing is if a customer is on a multi-year deal that is on a legacy license, we could actually help them get on cloud licensing midterm by giving them a new license key and getting them to update with activation code. I would say those are the two best things that we can do. Now, there are some customers in tricky situations where their instances are gapped and they're not going to be able to use the cloud licensing that I just spoke about that syncs data once a night. For those, we have offline cloud licensing. So the trick there is to work with them to upgrade to GitLab 15.0 or above, and then work with them to get offline cloud licensing. And then that will help. The customer will not have as many benefits as they do on the regular cloud licensing. So our preferred method is still the regular cloud licensing, but it will help us with the visibility into usage data and to help them manage their subscription that way.
Cool. All makes sense. That's great. Thanks, Omar.
Sweet. Tim, you have a question.
Yeah, Omar, thanks for having us today. And I'm super excited about the organizational changes that you're all making. It seems like we're heading in the right direction. I was curious, how do ultimate trials for premium customers leveraging cloud licensing work when they want to run a trial on their existing GitLab installation? How does this differ from our SaaS premium customers that are looking to run an ultimate trial on their existing namespace?
Great question. And I don't have an answer, actually. I'm just kind of like thinking through it. I'm like, what can I tell you right now? I don't actually have a good answer here. I think it's something that I would want to look into and just get back to you. I don't know if I don't think Courtney's on the call on the provision side. So I'll have to follow up on this one. I think right now, trials are done through legacy licensing, not through cloud licensing. That's kind of like the latest I understand. And I think that the experience is also not the best. So there's definitely improvement areas there. But that's the best I can say right now. I don't know, Justin, or if anyone else on the call has any other insights.
I don't. I have feedback on how we could make the trial experience better for existing customers, right? Like I've heard a lot that you might not want to upgrade your entire instance to Ultimate, but instead like a group within that instance, so that you can sort of limit you don't want like thousands of users creating epics and running scans when you're gonna have to rip that away from them potentially when the trial's over, right? So there's some things we should look into on making that better.
Yeah. Cool.
I'll pass it off to Manjeet to verbalize his question.
Yeah, hey Omar. The question I have is, if I have an existing customer migrating to version 14, you did mention, and for air gap, it's some version number 15.
Mhm.
So what is the impact as part of that particular change in the licensing? Is there anything which has to be done on the customer end, or is it like very happening in the background? There is
Mhm.
nothing, no impact to the customer, like from the when they are looking at. I just want to understand, like, what is the impact to the existing instance? Is there any downtime needed, maintenance downtime, or anything which has to be communicated, planned with customer? So that aspect, I'm just trying to understand as a SA, what things to be relayed. Hey, there is a 30 minutes of impact, and these are all the 10 things which has to happen as part of this change.
Got it. So I think there's two parts in terms of this. One is if a customer is not yet on 14.1 or on 15.0 and they want to use a specific type of cloud licensing, how do they operate, right? I don't actually, I think there's other people in the call that are probably more knowledgeable about the upgrade process. But I think, self-managed instance upgrades, particular major versions, have specific instructions on how to do that. And we can follow up on just kind of like, I can point you to the right places to kind of like, share with customers. Now, the second part of your question is if, as they do this, right, is there any sort of cloud licensing impact on the customer that they should think about, right? And if the customer is, once they've upgraded to 14.1 or 15.0, they do need to take the step of activating their subscription using cloud licensing. So nothing happens automatically, right? It's not going to be like they're on 14.1 and now they're suddenly on cloud licensing. After that, they still need to get an activation code and activate using cloud licensing. Once they do that, then the ramifications of them activating with cloud licensing are what I just mentioned. So it would connect their instance. There's a service that will run nightly that will connect to our servers and then give us that license utilization data. The data is minimal. It's pretty much just very high level data as to how many billable users the instance has, which is synchronized on a daily basis, and some license metadata that is encrypted as part of that sync. And I'll point specifically to what it is, because that is the one thing that customers will ask about is what is this data synchronization doing? And that's one thing that you can point them to and say, there's minimal amount of data that gets synchronized back and forth. And what that does, it keeps your subscription up to date in the instance, and it allows us to know how many billable users you have in your instance.
Got it. Thank you.
I'll add a couple details to this. So, and I'm going to pull up the doc site and I can link to it here for y'all as well. But on the network piece, the big one that I see come up a lot that is surprising to customers and surprising to folks in the field is the need to unblock a port. So oftentimes good network security policy will make it so that your instance isn't open on all ports to the internet. And so they'll need to go provision that and forward that port. Or however they want to set it up on their network end. And so that will need to be done to then allow the instance to activate. So there is an additional step there. So that's in our docs, and I will stop talking and find that and put the link in the agenda.
Thank you.
Cool. There's no other questions in the document, but if anyone on the call has a question, feel free to just verbalize it, and then I'm sure one of us will type it out.
I can add a question related to what we were just talking about. Do you know if we've talked to like anybody on the distribution team to see if there are ways to make the upgrade process itself easier? I feel like we had a while ago, but I don't really remember what was the answer.
I haven't in the last year. Justin, did you?
Yeah, I can. Well, so I think I'll say this: for customers that are very good at continuing to upgrade their instances, this really isn't an issue, right? Because they already have a process built in, and most customers that are sophisticated in managing their instances will have a predefined, like, okay, once a quarter we take the new version of GitLab, right? Or once a year, whatever they do, right? There are different policies based on the organization. There are a subset of customers for various technical or organizational reasons who are very slow and very far behind. And that's one of my, although I was asking Omar questions that seemed like I didn't know what was going on earlier, I actually know all these things. And one of the pieces of data I look at weekly is how many customers are running versions that are pre 14.0 and just aren't upgrading. We have some customers, like large accounts, like 5-6 figure accounts, that are running like 12 dot something. And that's like end of support, like end of life support old. And so we need to come up with a plan. I don't know if that's contributions from distribution team or others, but of how we get those customers upgrading. Because the farther and farther you fall behind, the harder and harder it is it might be to upgrade to the latest version of GitLab. Yeah, for cloud licensing, obviously I have a bias there to get them on the right version so they can activate it. But just in general, like hundreds of features have been shipped, tons of improvements to the product, UX improvements, performance improvements, bug fixes, and they're just like not getting them. And so we need to come up with a plan to lift those customers up, because those are the ones that the longer the time goes on, the harder it'll be for them to upgrade. So that's my 2.5 cents answer on that question. Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, one thing that I was made aware of as part of driving this 14.1, wanting to drive more adoption 14.1, is that in 14.0 there were some breaking changes that were introduced that some large customers just had to do a little bit more work to make that transition from a pre 14.0 to a post 14.0 upgrade, and that was holding back some customers on the latest 13. Whatever, I think it was 13.12.
We'll say the good news is for us, and I can find the chart and put it in the agenda, but if you look at all accounts, our upgrade rates are actually really great. Like most customers will upgrade to the latest and greatest version of GitLab within a few months of it being released, which is awesome. It's just we do have some outliers that we need to figure out.
Cool. Any other questions? This is the last thing we have on the agenda right now. Okay, that was enough. Awkward silence. Thank you, everyone.
Stan's typing.
Stan's typing.
Oh, I was just going to chime in that we do have a lot of pain points in upgrading. I'll just link this issue here, but a lot of our upgrades require like stops at certain revisions because of the way we do migrations. And so support has been struggling with this because, ideally customers would be like, oh, I'm on version 12, I'll just upgrade to the latest 12, but no, you've got to stop at 12 dot something and then 12.8. So I think that is the biggest difficulty support is facing right now.
Yeah, thanks for those details, Stan. That's a clear answer to my comment on being painful the older you are, version wise.
Cool. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Cool. Justin's already waving, so I think that was enough awkward silence. So thanks everyone for joining. And if you have any other thoughts or questions after the call, feel free to drop them in the fulfillment channel. And have a great day.